That's what it means to be a saint. So you can be a saint and never be canonized. That finally kind of clicked in my head in my late 20s, where I was like, wow, you really can do this. You don't have to go and be a missionary to some country and be a martyr, although I've been praying for martyrdom since I was 19. Nearly every day. And I know that sounds weird, and it's like, okay, Todd, you need to seek psychological help. But the point is, I'm like, that's just the easiest way to heaven. It really is. Like, I can just imagine it happening, and the poor person, you know, like if it's a Muslim guy that wants to kill me because of my Catholic faith, I'll be giddy. I'll be laughing. Because I'll know, it's like, okay, this is my exit. This is that time to go. And they'll be like, infidel, why are you smiling? I'm thinking, you don't understand. Like, all my sins are about to be forgiven. It's like the coolest thing ever. And I could just see him getting mad. You know, it's like, infidel. It's like, thank you. I am an infidel. So beautiful. And I'll be praying for you in just a moment. In just a moment, I'll be beseeching God to forgive you. I mean, it's not in your face. I mean, we want salvation for everybody. Anyway, let's get back to Pier Giorgio. All right, so Pier Giorgio, yes, he was amazing. He spent himself, poured himself out, so much so that while serving the poor, he contracted polio. Now, polio is a slow killer. It's a slow killer. Back then, before the polio vaccines, it would normally attack the outer extremities, so he had pain in his legs and in his back, but he didn't want to talk about it with his family because his grandmother was dying, and he didn't want to take the attention away from that event. And then finally his grandmother died, and they said, Giorgio, come down the hall to her bedroom, because she lived with them in the house upstairs, and we're going to pray the rosary, because your grandmother just passed away. And he collapsed 3 times on the way down the hall.
Did I notice?
Again, it was not a great family. His family was not wonderful. He had one younger sister. There was an older brother who died in infancy, but there were just 2 kids. And the mom and dad they themselves had already said that they were going to get divorced, which back in the 20s, that was unheard of. So they weren't really paying attention to one another, and they weren't paying attention to the kids. And in an aristocratic family, you have other people raise your children anyway. So, no, they didn't notice, sadly. They didn't notice, yes.
So how did Pier Giorgio's, how did his conversion come about?
His personal conversion?
Yes.
There's no conversion. From the get-go, he was going after God. For him, it made natural sense when he was a child to seek after God, to seek after that which was beautiful. Which, to me, you can really see it in the fact that he loved the mountains, and he loved nature. But more importantly, he loved people. He loved them. Why? Because he saw God in them. And if you want to know what God looks like, look in the mirror. That's what God looks like. Because you're created in his image and likeness. And then Satan lies to us. And he goes, oh, you're ugly, you know, you don't have talents, and you're useless. I mean, Satan lies to us, and then we listen to the lies over and over and over again. We start to believe them.
I don't know about that last part.
Yeah.
that was a doozy.
Wait a minute. That was dark. But you know, you are what God looks like, and Pier Giorgio knew that. He knew that, and that's why he always sought God, because he saw beauty, and so he sought after the font of beauty. I mean, when you go to the mountains, you just take a deep breath, and I mean, for him, it was just love of God. Love of God naturally flowed out of him. Then he had a passionate love for the Eucharist. Back then, it was unusual for people to go to daily mass, and he would sneak out of the house because his dad was an atheist. His mom was afraid that he was going to be a priest, and actually told him, "I'd rather be dead. I'd rather see you dead than have you become a priest." Isn't that pretty? It's a lot of family support. It's a lot of family support. But anyway, that was kind of the cool thing, is when he was beatified, you know, we mentioned when we listened to that CD by Father Skeeter that he was beatified by himself, which is very unusual because it is a very expensive ceremony, so they normally beatify a bunch of people together, and they did it by himself. John Paul II specifically said it's because Pier Giorgio had no support to become a saint. He had no real support. I mean, yes, granted, he had some good friends in his life, but he didn't get support from his mom and dad. He didn't get support from a religious order. He didn't get support from anything, really, other than his supernatural love and openness to grace. And then he poured himself out to the point of death. You know, so you could almost argue that he was a martyr for the poor. Because he poured himself out to the point of death. And we honor him today, yes.
Why on earth has he not been canonized yet?
You know, the church moves very slow. I mean, it does. The church moves very slow. I mean, it's the same reason, you know, why Mother Teresa hasn't been canonized. And I know that 85 years.
Yeah, she
I
died
know.
13 years ago.
Yeah, but there's a huge difference, though, because you can't put Giorgio in the same light as Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
I mean, Mother Teresa set the world on fire. You know, she was on the cover of Time magazine 4 times. She set the world on fire. Largest religious order now in the world, from a little Albanian woman. So you can't compare the two. And yes, matter of years. I think the biggest problem is he doesn't have an order to push it. That's his problem.
Do you think those rumors are still hurting him?
Maybe, you know, because there was a lot of rumors that he wasn't as virtuous as he was, although there's no proof of that, you know. But it's hard as a lay person to be canonized.